Greetings, I am Gresham Zidam, and welcome back to Gresham Reads Monster Blood Tattoo, Book 1, Foundling, by D.M. Cornish. Forgive me, I was taking a sip of a drink. Gotta admit, I do agree with Darkus. Seagram's ginger ale is much better than Canada Dry. It's not super sweet, so it lets the ginger flavor kind of be more there. It's got a bit of that spice, you know? Either way, in the previous chapter, we'd gone through Europe's recovery from the Knicker attack. From specifically the Nimble Shrewds that attacked 2 chapters prior. And as well as the introduction of a scold by the name of Sallow. And now that she is in the process of recovery, Rossamünd is, though questioningly, still is following her, having been assigned as her, at the very least, temporary factotum. Alright, let's see. As per usual, there will be the definition before a chapter. This one is Imperial Postman, a noun. A walking postman's or an ambler's life is dangerous, and he is forced to be skilled at avoiding and protecting himself against monsters. Frequently, customers of scolds, postmen invent clever and slippery ways to make sure that the post always gets through. Mortality rates are high among them, however, and the agents who employ them prefer orphans, strays, and foundlings who will not be missed by fretting families. Well, that is fairly dark, but I suppose it makes sense. Either way, excuse me. Let us begin with the next chapter. Chapter 12. A trouble shared is a trouble halved. True, very true. If anything, sharing with one person is half the trouble. Sharing with multiple is more than half. Being split apart. Early the next morning, Rossamünd found Europe sitting quietly on a stiff chair by a newly lit fire, staring at the struggling flames. She held a bowl of Cathos treacle, meekly sipping at it rather than gulping it down. Waiting till she had finished her potive, feeling that this would be the best policy, he began. Miss, Europe turned her hazel gaze to him. Yes, little man. He fidgeted. What do you think of my name? The Fulgar looked annoyed. How do you mean, think? Well, it's not a name meant for a boy. Did you know that? Her expression relaxed. She laughed her liquid chortle. Oh, I see. So, some would have it meant for a girl. What concern is it of mine how you your sires chose to label you. Things are more than their names. If you were anointed dunghead, I'd still call you that without teasing or embarrassment. It's just a word, little man. She gave him a soft look, faint but unusually kind. Rosamund's heart sang a little. The Fulgar might have gone some small way to redeeming herself for the harm done at Brindlestone Bridge. For a time, she did not speak, and Rosamund went to leave. Europe reached over and touched him on the arm. She said very quietly, "I understand why you asked me this, though, and I'm sure it has been a great inconvenience to you for much of your life." He blinked at her capricious kindness. After a moment he answered, "Aye, ma'am, it has at that. They would call me Rosy Posy, or Girly Man, or Lady, or more things besides." The Fulgar contemplated him with a serious eye. Hardly surprising. Children begin the cruel career of the untamed tongue almost as soon as they can talk. She paused and continued to look at him intently. He took the bowl from her to give him something to do under that uncomfortable gaze. "I hope you learn to master your hurts, little man." Rosamund kept his eyes on the black dregs in the bottom of the bowl. "Oh, I just ignored them. Stayed out of the way as much as possible. Master Franzstadt and Verlaine looked after me very well anyway, so I don't mind." Europe shifted in her seat. "So, who are these Master Franzstadt and Verlaine?" she asked, pulling out a small black lacquered box. Rosamund relaxed. "Oh, Master Franzstadt was my dormitory master, though not the only one. There's Crampalden and Heddelbulk, Instructor Bartemius, and Undermaster Cuspin." Europe's eyes glazed, and she went back to looking at the fire. It appears that she had lost interest. "And Verlaine is Madame Oprah's parlour maid, but she took special care of me," Rosamund said, finishing quickly, wanting to at least answer her original question. "Madame Oprah, now?" Europe's attention fixed on him again, and she lifted one brow in her characteristic manner. "Enough names. Your first years sound almost as complicated as mine were. Go away now, little man. A woman must have her privacy. Let me know as soon as Licurious's body and the landaulet are fetched back." Her shoulders sagged, and even though she had just risen, she looked very tired. Rosamund nodded a little bow and, holding the soup bowl in one hand and picking his almanac in the other, went to leave. As he opened the door, Europe called, "And tell them not to disturb me." "Yes, Miss Europe." As confused as he had ever been after a conversation with Fulgar, Rosamund went to the common room. Strangely, he also felt lighter than he had for many days. He read his almanac and sipped on a mug of small beer. In the afternoon, Gretel came to him while he still sat in the common room. Sorry about that in the background. I think trash is being taken out. Dank, the day watch yardsman, was with her, and announced to the Foundling that the landaulet had been retrieved. Rosamund went out to the yard and found the carriage to be as much in the state as they had left it, as could be expected. He asked after the corpse of the Lear. "Well, you see," said Dank, scratching his head, "there was no body. Not the horses, nor this Licurious fellow's." Rosamund's heart sank. The growing lightness within him within him evaporated, even without even a memory of its occurring at all. His face must have shown his sinking spirits, for Gretel put her hand softly on his shoulder. "'Tis the way of things," the day watch yardsman explained. Good lord, I cannot talk. Again. Monsters love their meat, and the skin and bones of people most of all. Sorry, lad. I'm sure your mistress will understand. She seems a worldly woman, if her reputation has it right. With a heavy sigh, Rossamünd made his way to his room, Gretel and Dank, hat humbly in hand, accompanying him. When they were permitted to enter, Europe seemed in good spirits. With much umming and ahing, Rossamünd gave her the grim news. Dank confirmed his report almost as awkwardly. "We searched for as long and as far as we dared, ma'am, but turned up naught." Black gloom immediately descended upon the Fulgar, and shielded everyone from the room with a chilling whisper. As Rossamünd left, she called to him. Her eyes were hard and her expression brittle. "We will need a new driver," she said. Rossamünd hesitated, the question of how forming in his mind and making its way to his mouth. The Fulgar's eyes narrowed. "Yes, Miss Europe," the Foundling said, and left quickly. He sought out Mr. Belatus about such a task, and the proprietor told him that the town of Silvernook, a little ways to the north, was the best place to find coachmen, wagoners, and other drivers. "Just go to the coachman's college in the Imperial in the Imperial Postal Office," offered Mr. Belatus. "This is where all the drivers spend their time waiting for their turn to drive the mail from town to town." As it was deemed too late in the day for him to proceed, Rossamünd was forced to wait till the next day to seek a driver from Silvernook. Instead, he went to the common room to have dinner. Just as the night before, the maid served him, and he chose a meal from a list upon a long oblong card she held. At the top it read "Bill of Fare," and beneath the dishes were categorized under subheadings "Best Cut" and "The Rakes." The difference Rossamünd could not fathom. Last night he had chosen lamprey pie from the list headed "The Rakes," because he had had it once before and did not recognize the name of any other meals. It did not taste very good. Tonight he picked the venison ragout and asked for an exotic-sounding drink listed as juice of orange. When this beverage arrived, it had a flavor that, yet again, amazed the simple taste of the Foundling. Sharp, sweet, tangy, refreshing. The juice was like the best orange he had ever eaten. The venison ragout, on the other hand, he found a bizarre flavor in his mouth, making it tingle and smart, but he pushed it down all the same. Not even the fussiest book child ever left food on a plate. A woman dressed in an astounding display of peacock feathers and blued fur stood at the other end of the common room and sang so sweetly, Rossamünd forgot to eat for minutes at a time. Apparently her name was Hero of Clunes. That is a title, not a name, but... Or is it Harrow, not Hero? It's hard to say for sure. So he heard people about him say, a famous actress from faraway south. Rossamünd wondered what she might be doing in this remote region. Looking for Clunes in his almanac, Rossamünd found to his amazement that it was so far south that it did not even show on any of his charts. He finished his meal and returned to his room to slumber. Europe still lay in bed, her back to the door. Rossamünd could not tell whether she slept or simply ignored him, and cared little for the risk to find out which. Not long after dawn set out, Mr. Belatus sent Little Dog with him to show the way. Little Dog went forth barefoot, protected by proofing of much lesser quality than Rosamund's own fine jack coat. He proved shy at first and seemed in awe of the Foundling, an attitude so new to Rosamund that he found it unnerving. They were let through the gates, which were firmly shut again behind them, and quickly arrived at the intersection by which the Harefoot dig was built. A sign was there telling them that they had arrived at the gangway. To the south, it said, was High Vesting, to the north was Silvernook, and below this, Winster Mill. The back of Rosamund's head tingled as he realized how close he was to his final destination. He had just to keep going north past Silvernook, and he would arrive there. If it was not for Mr. Germanicus waiting for him in High Vesting, he just might have. He turned left and went north up the gangway towards Silvernook. Little Dog walked quickly, and Rosamund strained to keep pace. It was hard work and left little breath for conversation. The page boy kept looking around about nervously, and Rosamund joined him. Over loud rustles made them jump and hurry on. Once a loud crack away among the trunks alarmed them so much they fled the road and hid behind a knuckle of lichen-covered rocks. It was always a relief whenever a cart or a carriage passed them by, the driver is typically offering a wave and sometimes a friendly, incoherent greeting. The traffic became more and more frequent as the day progressed. By the first bell of the forenoon watch, as Rosamund reckoned it, a cart rattled by and stopped. Its rubicund driver hoyed in them cheerily, calling, "Little Dog, you're wanting a hitch to Silvernook?" To which the two tired walkers gave a hearty yes. The driver introduced himself to Rosamund as Farmer Rabbit, and chatted merrily about taters and gorms, and how Goodwife Rabbit was heavy with child. "My first, you know." He grinned with a wink. Rosamund thought him the happiest fellow he had ever met, and could not help but grin along with the farmer's ready joy. Not sure if that's a good accent to give him. But I mean, here, seeing the word "moi" wrote down, or in this case typed down, just kind of brings that to mind. The darkling forest gave way to great high hedges of cedar trees, grown close and thick along the verges. In the midst of almost every hedge wall, there was some kind of grand and solid-looking gate. Little Dog informed them that these were the fences behind which lived the local gentry. As they rattled on, Rosamund thought on the perplexing choice before him. Stay true to the original path, become a lamplighter and take on a boring life, or become the factotum, the servant, of a woman who did deeds with which he could never agree. It was more than he knew how to solve, and he hoped circumstances would provide a solution for him. Soon enough they arrived at Silvernook. Hidden within a high bluestone wall, the gates of the town were open, but they were watched. The town's gaiters, who wore the black uniform of Brandon brass, eyed them sternly as Farmer Rabbit drove through. He sat Little Dog and Rosamund down by the Imperial Post Office, where the lads parted ways, for Little Dog had an errand to run somewhere else in the town. "I'm sorry, Mr. Rosamund, sir," he said, "but I probably won't be able to show you back to the dig. You'll find your way back alright, though, won't you?" "I reckon so, Little Dog," answered Rosamund, blushing at the boy's deference. "I'll have my driver by then. He'll be going back with me, I'm sure." With a satisfied nod, Little Dog left. The Imperial Post Office of Silvernook was narrow and high, like every other building in the town. making the most of the limited room offered within the safety of the town's walls. And as always, its chimneys were extraordinarily tall. As far as he knew, chimneys were so lofty because it was reckoned that the higher they were, the harder it would be for some curious buggle to climb them and do mischief. People were going into and coming out of the Imperial postal office steadily. Rossamünd found that he had to join a queue of high-class ladies in their voluminous skirts, festooned bonnets, guildsmen in their weathered leather aprons, and middle-class gentlemen buckled inside high collars and flaring frock coats, just so he might ask for further help. When he finally arrived at the serious woman on the other side of the perforated wall, she informed him that the coachman's cottage was beyond a certain side door, through which he proceeded directly. The door opened into a long drive that went between the Imperial Postal Office and another equally tall building. This drive took him to a sizable open area at the back, large enough to turn a two-horse carriage about, surrounded on every side by high houses. In a far corner there was a small dwelling with a bright red door, the coachman's cottage. A brass plaque screwed to it declared, "Knock, but do not enter, by order of the Most High Emperor himself." And Rossamünd did just that. There was a long pause. He tried again, and the portal finally opened, a thin, grudging gap. "Hello?" Rossamünd began, hands clasped meekly. "Do you have any drivers in there?" The gap increased slowly. "You what?" came a sour voice from within. Rossamünd cleared his throat nervously. We are needing to hire someone to drive the landaulet down to high vesting. We're at the Harefoot dig, you see, and..." "You want someone to go down with you to the dig?" the sour voice demanded, "so they can drive some car to high vesting, aye?" Aye. "And how much you got in your purse?" Flustered, Rossamünd counted his coins. 1 sequin, a florin, and 8 guys. "I see." The sour voice sounded less than convinced. "Wait there." The door closed with a bang. Fidgeting, Rossamünd was made to wait what felt like an overlong time. Finally, the scarlet door was pulled open a crack once more. "Sorry, no drivers available," the sour voice declared, sounding almost triumphant. "Too busy. Try the drained mouse on Fussex Cold. Plenty of desperate lads there. Goodbye." "Wait, I don't..." The door closed with an even louder, all questions ending bang. Even before Rossamünd had a chance to turn and walk away in disgust, the door was opened once again, wide this time. "So, you need some help with the driver, do you?" a voice inquired. Before him stood a cheerful-looking man with a ready, toothy smile and large ears that stuck out prominently, made more obvious by his hair, which was unfashionably short, like Rossamünd's. This fellow was dressed in drab, sturdy proofing, a jack coat strapped all the way down down the front, long shanks of a thick corded material, and white gaiters reaching as high as the knee fastened over sturdy dark brown road shoes. Wound tightly about his waist was a broad sash, and fixed by black ribbons to both arms were broad oversleeves of a brightly covered taffeta of rouge and cadmium checkers. Rossamünd instantly recognized the model of a postman, those faithful fellows who braved bandits and boggles and foul weather to deliver mail to and from the scattered folk of the country. The colorful cloth was set nicely against his otherwise dull attire, and made the man look important and serious. Quite at odds with his friendly expression, in his hands he held a black tricorn. Rossamünd frowned at him, not knowing how to answer. "Hello, lad. Sorry about being so abrupt. Just had to make sure I got to you in time. My name is 4 Acres." The man reached out a hand for Rossamünd to shake. The boy did just that, as Franstad had taught him to, looking up at the man's face seriously. I was about to say the mace is fat, getting the words scrambled. "Hello, Mr. 4 Acres. I'm Rossamünd. You're a postman, aren't you?" The fellow nodded smartly. "Yes, lad, that I am. Bit obvious, ain't it? Rossamünd, you say? Well, Mr. Rossamünd, those other slothful Sioux in there might not want to help, but I may be of service to you." "How so, sir?" "Well, I needed a high vesting, you see, and I couldn't help hearing you needed a driver to take you to high vesting. So I think, 2 people, same problem, 1 solution. I'd like to offer my services to you as the driver you need. Not as well practiced as those daily driving gentlemen. I'm a walker, you see, but I still know how to switch a rein." Rossamünd did not care what the man's credentials were. He could drive, and that was all he wanted to know. He accepted 4 Acres' offer with glee. The postman bowed humbly. "Just wait by the front of the office. I'll join you as soon as I'm able," he offered with a grin. With many an exuberant "thank you, sirs," Rossamünd went back through the Imperial Post Office and waited on the street out in front. It took a long time for the postman to emerge. As Rossamünd waited, with people and vehicles bustling by, he began fretting that he had been duped by the unwilling people inside the coachman's cottage. His fears proved unfounded, however, for 4 Acres arrived soon enough, hat on head, bag full of dispatches on his back, and a satchel over his shoulder, ready to leave. Before much longer, they were walking back out the gates of Silvernook and returning down the road to the Harefoot Dig. Rossamünd had found a driver. And that calls the end of this chapter. Gotta admit, this one was certainly fairly informative on the structuring of the postal system, as well as how cart carriers, or landaulet and carriage drivers, are found. And it appears that even then there are still people who desire more money in compensation for their work. Which, if you do hard work, you do deserve proper compensation, but some people well, how some people are, I suppose, would be the most polite way to put it. Either way, I thank you all for joining me for this video. Make sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you enjoyed this chapter. And also make sure to share the video around. If you aren't interested in this series, perhaps you know somebody who does enjoy a good fantasy-themed story with, honestly, it's kind of a slow build, but it's an interesting plot nonetheless. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to be alerted whenever a new video is uploaded or when Darkest goes live. Also, pay attention on social medias, because Darkest will be uploading, well, has uploaded a schedule again. He has stopped, but he will be bringing those back. Yep, currently working on one right now. Right. But in the meantime, I will see you all in the next video. Now I am Gresham's it all, and I do hope you have a pleasant day.